Hi, all of you. Good evening. Can you all confirm if you can hear me? Yeah, all our viewers, listeners, can you please confirm if you can hear me? Are you able to see somebody online, Dimple? Because
Yes, there is a confirmation also.
okay, Ashwini, Soni. Okay, I
Yes.
can say yes. Hi,
Yes.
Ashwini. Okay, good evening. Good evening. Oh, so they are joining in slowly, gradually. Hi,
Yes.
Prashant, Karan, Sati, Karan, Sati. Yeah, Tabashir, fine. So I hope you are streaming fine, loud and clear. Nadia, welcome to have you. Nice to have you. Welcome. Okay, excellent. So once again, the process continues. We have had discussion on the essays paper, on the GS1, GS2 paper, and today we will have discussions on the GS4 paper. GS3 discussion is slated for tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll discuss GS3. Today we have GS4, which is the ethics paper. Hi, Pratima. Good evening. Kaveri, good evening. So thank you for joining in. Let me quickly introduce Dimple Nankani ma'am to all of you. I think quite a few of you already know her. She has been part of the classes. She's been taking her sessions also in GS and optional. For others not initiated, Dimple specializes in geography topics, and also she is the ethics faculty at Edukemy. Hi, Sahin. Good evening. So welcome, Dimple. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you.
So, so the ethics paper, I think, of all the papers you have in the GS, ethics paper perhaps is the most ambiguous, I will say. Ambiguous because there is no right or wrong answer in ethics. It's all interpretations. You never get zero in ethics answers, I'm sure, because you'll not write absolutely absurd things. But the marks lies in how you interpret a statement, an idea, how you link it with examples, how do you substantiate your arguments, whatever is around ethics. So ethics paper, that way I say it's a bit ambiguous. Because even after you have solved the paper, it's difficult to know exactly how you have done. Of course, the bigger ambiguity is the essays paper. Okay, we'll not even talk about it right now because it operates at a different plane altogether. But in many ways, the ethics paper is the logical extension of the essay itself, because there's a lot of subjectivity, there's abstractness. In fact, in some ways, ethics paper is also demanding that you write short essays. वो जो 3 कोट वाले क्वेश्चंस होते हैं, 10-15 मार्क के होते हैं या 4 कोट वाले होते हैं, most of them are essay topics. It's just the essays topics you must write for maybe 10-12 pages. In the ethics paper, you write for maybe 1.5, or maximum 2 pages. So in that ways, there is a lot of overlap in the demands of the ethics paper and the essays paper. And that's the reason why the discussion of ethics paper becomes all the more tricky, all the more important. So before we dwell into the details of what was asked, Dimple, if you may, please, can you give us a quick analysis of the paper? Because the trend has been ethics paper generally scores, I mean, people who qualify, they score more than 100, 120. I've heard marks as high as 125, 130 also from some of them. So is it deliberate that ethics paper scores as much mark, or on average, maybe the marks not as good? The difference could be very high between those who qualify and those who don't qualify. What is your take on that, Dimple?
So yes, ethics paper is basically, a maker or a breaker paper. Why do we say that? It's because if you look at the syllabus per se, the syllabus or, the previous year questions, they have a standard theme. They have a standard pattern. The marks have been as high as 162 in ethics paper. There have been in 2019, rank 5, she had 162 marks. And some of them, they fare in the average of 70, 75, 80. या एवरेज स्कोर जाता है या बिलो स्कोर जाता है. So yes, difference काफी हो जाता है. So thinking of like 80 to 160, it's really 80 marks. So that difference gets too high. Even if I don't say 80, let's take into consideration even 45 marks difference. That becomes very high. So the reason for this, as per my understanding, is that ethics require a language of its own. So it's easier to write a GS paper by studying newspapers and by studying the standard books. But for ethics, you need to have that language about the dilemmas, about trust, about responsibility, fiduciary responsibilities. We need to understand that pattern, and that requires some bit of practice. And if you look at the case studies also, the kind of case studies that have been asked, it is not easy to actually think about the case study, about the situation in the exam conditions. You need a lot of reflection as to in your personal domain also, that how would you write and how would you fare. So that requires, so one is reflection, the other is having the command over language, and then having an outlook while you're reading everyday newspaper or any current affairs, that this aspect can be utilized in my paper. So there are some beautiful case studies, like for there was Padma Shri awardee, that Dada ambulance. So we need to actually start using those in our answers to have an edge over the others.
Okay, so the challenge lies, like you have said, one is the paper is forcing you to reflect in the exam condition.
Yes.
Generally, reflection is something we talk about solitude, you withdraw and reflect, introspect. Okay, but this paper is forcing, and more importantly, I think the reflection is not about one or two topics. It's reflection throughout the paper.
Yes, yes.
If there are 2-3 case studies, her case studies mein karo reflect. Every statement requires reflection. The switching of, I think, between topics and going deep into every discussion, that could be one. And most of us are not used to that type of deep thinking.
Correct. So
and then I really,
transition from the theory portion to the case study, that also becomes tricky in time. So ethics being the last paper of all the GS4 papers, already the person is exhausted,
yes.
is tired, not in a mood to write. They've deliberately kept it as a last paper. And compared to other GS papers, the paper gets a little lengthier. Even the number of pages that are given in GS 1, 2, 3 is 50. Taking into consideration 2 sides for 10 marks and 3 sides for 15 marks. It's 50 pages. But for ethics, they give 55 pages. And that tendency ki page bharna hai. At the last time when you're already tired, exhausted, that gets really difficult. So yes, switching and transition is very difficult from theory, at least to case studies. That requires a different mindset there.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. And you talked about the language part also. Language, more than language, a good language is appropriate language.
Exactly.
Language which is befitting discussions on ethics issues and so on. Fine. So what's your take, Dimple? How was the paper like? Easy, moderate, 1 to 10 ke scaling mein scale bata do. What do you think?
So paper was, this time the paper was, I would say, moderately doable. It was not very tough. Yes, the case study part, I'm talking about the theory part and case study part, I'm breaking it into two. Case study, the theory part was on expected lines as compared to last year. The last year, sir, question 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, especially 1A, 1B. The size of the question for 1A was 55 words, and they expect you to write 150 words. So to process 55 word based question was very tricky. But this was not seen in this year's paper. This year's paper, it was only 1-liner, 2-liner, 3-liner. So it was easy to process the theory portion, except for one question which was based on emotional intelligence, which was a little lengthier. Otherwise, the paper was fair. The theory part, it was easy. When we switched on to the case study part, that became trickier because it was no easy yes or no, right or wrong there. So it actually required a deeper introspection. So it was like a mix. Theory got a little easier, but case study got a little trickier. So
last time case study was manageable more.
The case studies were lengthier last time also, but the themes were same. This time they have changed the themes. They've changed. It's more about the loss of human life. First case study, second case study. It's about third was about work-life balance. So they've actually changed. the approach towards case study. So
last time, what was the theme in case study?
So the last time it was more of administration related. How would you tackle the administration and other things? This time,
administrative ethics say they move on towards life.
Yes.
About relationships.
Okay. Along with the administration, it involves both. As in you being an IAS officer and dealing with a calamity situation where there's a loss of life. How would you professional ethics? How will you deal with that? So they have added many layers to the case study now.
Wow. They demand a different level of aspirants now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think this is the general trend across all the other papers also. Yes, that the questions now seem understandable. The words seem familiar. पहले तो word क्या ही पूछा समझ में नहीं आता. Okay, but this time you understand the words better. You understand the statement better. But of course, writing about it in as many words, that's a different ball game altogether.
Yes, sir.
So still, I'm persisting with the question. Last year, in 1 to 10, what was the difficulty level? This year, 1 to 10, and keeping account everything, understandable concepts, familiarity. So 1 matrix, 1 to 10 scale. Last year, what was it? This year, what was it?
What does 1 and what does 10 actually mean? So 10 means
1 is pathetic. You just walk out. Okay. Or maybe reverse. I'll say 1 is very easy, and 10 is very tough. You can't attempt. 10 is very tough. So 1 to 10.
I think it should be around 7. 7,
this
7.5. Yes.
And last year?
So last year it was a little trickier. As per my analysis, it was a little trickier last year because
8.5 last year. This year 7.5.
Yes.
So last year, what was the average mark? Any idea, Dimple, or people you came across?
Sir, I actually came across people scoring above 100, 105, 110.
Most of them.
Yes, most of
them. This year, you think the trend will continue, or will it be a squeeze?
I think so. It should be around in the same range. Average to utna hi range pe rahega. But then, sir, with ethics, you cannot be very sure because they can, scale up. They can also scale up. Like in 2014, it was 2019. The average was 135, 140. That was the average. So the highest score was 162, but the average was 135. So we cannot be very sure of how will the swing be. Will it be actually, in the range of 130, or will it again go to 90, 100 that way? So you cannot be just very sure.
So fine. Before we move on, why don't you give the analysis of this year's paper? Okay. Yeah, please start off.
So the first analysis that I have is that there has been repetition of themes. When I say repetition of themes, it's about corruption, probity, hatred, emotional intelligence. So these themes seems to have been repeating. Like, for example, when I say corruption, they ask the question that corruption is failure of core values. This is 2020, this year paper. Doesn't corruption represent the failure of the values? In the last time, that is in 2022, they asked a code-based question on corruption. In 2017, again, a code based on corruption. And this is same that, that corruption is basically because if you want to be corruption free, the role of mother, father, parents, teachers become really important. Same question. So the theme of corruption is seen to be repeating. Not only that, if we talk about international aid, last year also international aid question, international affair question. 2020 also international affair question. 2019 also international relations question. They seem to be repeating. There was a question on emotional intelligence. What really matters for success, character, happiness, lifelong achievement is definite set of emotional skills. Your EQ matters for good life, not just your cognitive abilities. Similar type of question, IQ versus EQ. A similar code-based question by Warren Buffett that while recruiting, you should look for 3 things: energy, intelligence, and integrity. So the themes seem to be repeating. This is the first analysis. So like we've seen in the other papers also this time, like for GS paper 3 also. So it was actually, the technology and the farmers, land reforms, cropping pattern. So this trend has also been seen for the ethics paper, the themes. You actually have to be very, very smart, not just completing the syllabus, but a suggestion that you will actually have to write 5 to 7 years papers, all of them. Then you know how to use the keywords, then you know how to use the example, then you can churn them better. So this was the first analysis. The second analysis that we've already discussed, that compared to last year, the paper seems to be doable. The first 4 questions were very tricky last time, very tricky. And what happened, sir? Last paper hai, you want to complete the paper. पहला ही question है से 55 word का question है तो आपको the first ball is like how do you hit, and then that bogs you down somewhere. So compared to last year, the paper was not as as lengthier, especially the theory part. So conventional paper raha hai compared to the last year. The some trends are similar, that every time they will ask 3 code based question, which is generally from the thinkers, that they will not directly ask about the thinkers, but they will ask you in the quote form. They will give you a statement and they will say the thinker's name. However, they've added one more question this time. They've added about the teachings of Guru Nanak, that what are the teachings there. So one question have been added apart from the 3 code based question, which still continues. This was the third analysis. The fourth analysis was about the case study. It is more applied. It touches upon ethical dilemma.
So if I sum up quickly the first part of the analysis,
Yes, sir.
themes are same.
Yes.
So no surprise there.
Yes.
Second, you're saying that the questions are more understandable, quick to read through and maybe write on.
Yes, sir.
That way, the comfort level this time is better. And third, you're saying the thinkers' questions are there, just as it was earlier.
Yes, sir.
Including the quote-based questions, right?
Yes. Yes.
We give a quote, something like your essays paper. I
Correct.
keep referring to that because the abstractness is there and they ask you to explain or interpret in some ways.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Continue, please.
But the gear changes with case study.
Uh-huh.
Case study has become more applied. So there are many layers to the case studies wherein you'll have to think, you will actually have to wait, take a pause and think ki kya likhe. How do you go about it? As in, student does needs an ethical clarity, reflection and introspection in daily life to answer them wisely. It is, let me just give you an example, the case study when there is a calamity situation, landslide is there, there's a pregnant lady, she's losing a lot of blood, but then some of them they are volunteering to donate blood. However, you have been a physiologist, your professional ethics says that you will have to take the blood from a bank, standardized and a recognized bank. So how do you now do? It's about a life situation, versus it's also about your professional ethics, versus the possibility of any harm if the transfusion goes wrong. So you want to save life, the intention is good, but saving life is coming with a lot of conditionalities there. So that
what to do? Intention is right. What to do?
What to do and what not to do, and how to mitigate the problems that it comes up with. That's the whole thing.
Right. So case study will be a game changer in that case.
Yes.
The rest is on the lines. Okay. So should we start off now with the first question?
Yes, sir.
By the way, a reminder to all our dear listeners and viewers, tomorrow, 21st, we have an All India scholarship test where we invite all of you to give the test based on the marks, your rank. We will give you some scholarship. You will be able to avail the courses at a discount, integrated course of GS, advanced course of GS, and modular course of GS. So irrespective of how well you are prepared, not prepared, I'll still say, give the test. Scan the QR code here, give the test. And I invite you to be part of our approach. I sincerely feel and I believe that Edukemy, we have a very different way of how we interpret, how we teach, what the process of preparation should be. We, I think, are more committed to that and not merely finishing a course or the syllabus. I'm sure if our viewers and listeners are comparing our discussions of the question paper with some of the other discussions or answers you have seen, I'm sure you will see a qualitative difference in the way we approach, in the way we interpret the words. And that's exactly what we want to teach all our students, teach all our prospective civil servants of the future. So welcome all of you. If you do consider, give the test, scholarship test, and help us be part of your journey while we support you as a part of your ambitions. Yes, Dimple, there was a short commercial break we had. Okay, now we can get back with our discussions on the question. So
Yes,
I
sir.
leave it to you, Dimple, the first question.
Yes, sir.
I do not have much role in this. You are the expert. You know the content much better than any one of us here. So feel free, whatever you can take up. Okay, so my wishes to you, get on. And uh, all the students online, if feel free to ask questions, please. Type in your question. Let us know what your doubts are. Hi, Pratima. Yes, Pratima says that the paper requires a lot of diplomacy also. Yes, that's what we are teaching. Diplomacy, say your things firmly, say your things with assertiveness, and write words. Something probably Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau would have learned if he had been part of the ethics course at Edukemy. Okay, so he would not be mindlessly ranting things in the name of allegations and accusations. So yes, it is nice to be good, diplomatic, polite, at the same time be firm. So yes, you're right, Pratima. So Dimple, it's all yours now. Please take on your
Thank you.
domain, your area. Yeah,
Thank you,
please.
sir.
Yeah.
So I'll just start off with the first question. All of you, is the screen visible? Is the screen visible? Is the voice clear? Yes. So I'll start off with the first question. The first question is about, what do you understand by moral integrity and professional efficiency in the context of corporate governance in India? Illustrate with examples. So question is very simple. It says that key moral integrity and professional efficiency, what does that mean in the context of corporate governance in India? So we have three basic keywords that is about your moral integrity, professional efficiency, and corporate governance. And it itself says, the question itself says, discuss with suitable examples. When the question itself says that discuss with suitable examples, you will have to make sure that nearly every point, at least you have a example. At least if you're writing 3 points or 4 points or 5 points, do example to kam se kam rakhi, right? In case you can add more, that's brilliant. So we know that what is moral integrity. Integrity basically refers to steadfast adherence to your values, wherein you and this you have to talk about in the context of corporate governance. So discussing the values like work ethics, punctuality, interest of the all stakeholders and not just the shareholders. It is actually, it implies just being fair, being wise, being just, even when nobody is watching you. So integrity is about, you will have to stick to your values, especially you will have to give examples and keywords in the context of our corporate governance, being fair, being just, being honest. Okay. And why is this question asked per se? Like, what do you understand by moral integrity in the context of corporate governance? This question is basically asked per se because there have been a lot of issues going on in the newspapers with respect to the moonlighting. The issue of moonlighting have been in news. The issue of massive layoff of the employees by the companies, by the IT companies, there have been massive layoffs. So on one hand, we debate about moonlighting, an employee working at two places. Whereas on the other hand, there are massive layoffs being done by the company, the responsibility of the company, right? So this becomes an issue that we'll have to think in that light. जब आप newspaper पढ़ रहे हैं, तो आपको इस light में सोचना है कि what does the word moral integrity actually means, and किसकी integrity, who is more responsible for this? एक और बहुत beautiful example that you might have heard, that is, it's about the Tata company. They have given compensation to their employees, those who actually could see a untimely death हुआ in the COVID time. So the companies, they have actually given full-time compensation as well as retirement benefits. कि जब तक कोई retire होगा तब तक they will pay. So on one hand, we have examples like Tata's, whereas on other hand, we have examples like there have been massive layoff at the time of recessions. So this is two things, right? Another thing, moonlighting versus punctuality. Suppose there's a very sincere employee coming regularly, being punctual, hardworking, but on the other hand, there is moonlighting. So here, here you'll have to take these consideration. What do you mean by moral integrity in the context of corporate governance? तो context of corporate governance में आपको वो सब पता होना चाहिए कि क्या होती है moral integrity. And it is very important not just to not just to have integrity in workplace, but it also, when you are at a workplace, it also requires you to be efficient, right? There's a quote, no, saying that there's a quote, no, where it says that you will have to have all the three things: energy, intelligence, and integrity. So energy or intelligence भी उतना ही important है. That is also equally important, especially of professional efficiency. That it's like you work in a corporate governance, you work in a corporate field, you will have to perform, and you are just not performing for yourself. You have a responsibility to perform for the company. You have a responsibility to perform for your nation. It's like a person who is doing his or work diligently is as patriotic as a person in the army, right? So ये जो work efficiency, जो professional efficiency है, corporate governance की context में आपको बताना है, right? So this you'll have to illustrate using examples. And there have been news that corporate governance is important for national building. You will build a nation, ठीक है? तो ये examples, the examples of HDFCs, the example HDFC Bank, the example of Tatas, the example of Moonlighting. आपको ये suitable examples लेने पड़ेंगे और उस context में आपको professional efficiency and moral integrity समझाना पड़ेगा. Ma'am, here's China's example. POSCON, can it be added as negative? Yes, Nadia, you can do that. Okay, as long as you're not criticizing our nation, you can do that. Now, the second one, the international aid. So, international aid is an accepted form of helping resource-challenged nations. So, and look at the question. The question is, they've just given you a statement that international aid is considered as an acceptable form of helping the resource-challenged nation. Comment on the ethics in the contemporary international aid and support your answer with suitable examples. So we know that international aid is generally given, especially to those least developing countries, especially to resource-challenged nations. It is given. Now you'll have to comment on the ethics part of it. When I say comment on the ethics part in the international aid, जब हम ethics part की बात कर रहे हैं कि international aid को आप ethics के angle से देखो. So when a powerful nation is giving international support to a resource-challenged nation, तो benefits क्या हैं? क्यों? मतलब what ethical principles are upheld? It's like a powerful player giving money to a player which is resource-challenged. So what are the benefits of it? The ethical pros of it. One ethics pros of it is basically जो rich होते हैं, the rich population is considered to be trustee. Gandhiji's concept of trusteeship, it is considered as a trustee of the wealth and not the owner of the wealth. So when a powerful nation is giving support to a resource-challenged nation, then it is actually upholding the principle of trusteeship, right? So you will have to think on these lines. Can somebody try to think on these dimensions more? What ethical principles would be upheld? क्या principles upheld रहेंगे when a powerful nation gives money to a resource challenged nation? Can you think of something? Yes, Nadia, not accepting or expecting anything back. मैं ये पूछ रही हूँ कौन से ethical principle uphold हो रहे हैं? अगर एक powerful nation, if it is giving money to a resource challenged nation, what virtues, what values, what positive points are getting upheld? One is Gandhiji ka trusteeship concept. The other is, see, this paper requires language of its own, right? Hand-holding approach, okay, no, okay. Compassion, okay. Nadia, yes, compassion. You are upholding the virtues like कंपैशन, आप कंपैशन की बात करो, आप एम्पैथी की बात करो. यस करण. यूनिवर्सल ब्रदरहुड, वी बेसिकली टॉक अबाउट वर्च्यूज लाइक. कौन सी वैल्यूज की बात होती है? वन इज गांधी जी ट्रस्टीशिप कंसेप्ट. You should also know about Gandhiji's talisman concept, that whenever in doubt you should recall the face of a poor person and then you should take a decision that whether your approach will help that person or not. So upliftment of the poor, the concept of sarvodaya, the concept of antodaya, right? That is talisman concept. You should also talk about a thinker, Plato. Plato talks about justice as one virtue. So when a powerful nation is giving money, very good Karan, when a powerful nation is giving money, it is actually upholding justice as a value. So yes, there are many other values like fairness, world as one big family, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Even for that matter, when the developed nation is just as society, correct? When the developing nation is giving money or support to the resource poor nation, we are fighting for it, right? We are demanding it. Loss and damage issue, तो आप environment sustainability की भी बात करते हो. You talk about environmental sustainability and other things. So this is the this is the good point, that a powerful nation responsibility, that it's the responsibility of the powerful to protect, to support, to uphold to make the person rise, to make the weak rise. So that's good part. However, it is also about the other side. Nothing comes for free, right? There are many things attached, there are many conditionalities attached. So now bahut achhi baat hai, somebody is giving money, it is helping the other nations, but then there's a star mark, there's a aid and a conditions attached. तो दूसरा dimension है contemporary international aid का. Comment on the ethics in the contemporary international aid. Comment on the ethics. So is everybody having as good intention? No. So what are the concerns of it? What are the concerns? The concerns are conflict of interest. Giving aid so as to sell your own arms. That is a conflict of interest that gets promoted when a powerful nation gives money to a resource-stressed region. Yes, there are concerns of vested interest, regional instability वाले concepts. ठीक है, कि vested interest है कि यहाँ पे we want the resource, because we want the resource, what do? We try to create our own government. The regional instability concepts आ जाते. Giving aids without accountability may lead to misuse of funds. आप accountability नहीं ensure करोगे तो misuse हो जाएगा fund का. There are issues like checkbook diplomacy. Yes, Sri Lankan crisis that we've seen, the crisis of Sri Lanka. So these are the ethical concerns. So ethical concerns क्या है? Ethical concerns है that there are conditions attached. There are issues with respect to the dignity of the nation. When India went for asking for food aid in 1960s, it was a question mark on the dignity of the nation, right? So yes, there are concerns also, the ethical concerns also. So you'll have to think about that question from that dimension. आपको क्वेश्चन को उस डायमेंशन से सोचना है कि अगर एक पावरफुल नेशन पैसे दे रहा है तो क्या अच्छी चीजें अपहोल्ड हो रही है एथिकल टर्म्स में, और क्या कंसर्न्स आ रहे हैं जो एथिक्स को वायलेट करता है. You'll have to think and you'll have to give examples for that. When I say examples, talk about examples like checkbook diplomacy, talk about PL 480. Yes, debt trap diplomacy. Giving money but not taking accountability can cause regional instability, right? There have been concerns about this. एक बहुत ही understandable concern है. One understandable concern is when you give money, right? You are giving freebie. You're giving a fish. We're not teaching fishing. So rather than giving freebies, it is important that there should be capability approach. The capability approach of Amartya Sen, right? That has to be taken into consideration. So it's better to teach. It's better to give skill. It is better to make people empowered rather than giving them fish. right? So ये आपको ध्यान देना पड़ेगा when you talk about ethics, right? And obviously when somebody is giving money, when somebody is giving aid, there has to be upheld. You'll have to uphold the virtues like transparency, accountability, sustainability, dignity, right? Any aid should not be with vested interest. कोई भी aid vested interest पे नहीं होना चाहिए. It should be on the humanitarian grounds. There should not be any abuse of power to propagate their own conflict, their own interest. I hope all of you are getting that how you have to think in ethics. You just don't say yes or no. Nothing is black or white. It is about gray. Same thing, when viewed from different perspective, would have different issues in place, right? So this was about your question number 1B. The next question, which seems to be a little easier, which seems to be a fairly easier one, that, okay, yes, Karan, should be done with best motives, correct? So when I talk about corruption, the question is very, you'll have to think on the questions like, corruption is manifestation of the failure of core values in society. When somebody is indulging in corruption, okay, it is not his personal failure. It is actually the failure of society. So failure of the core values in the society. So as a society, we have not been able to actually uphold the values, the virtues, and we as a society have failed. And that is what corruption points out. That corruption is manifestation of the failure of the core values in society. In your opinion, what measures can be adopted to uplift the core values in the society? So what should you actually elevate in the society? What value should you increase in the society? What measures should you take so as to reduce corruption? So you all understand that why would somebody indulge in corruption? A person indulges in corruption for private gain. It's an abuse of power for the private gain. And the word, it's very interesting to know that word corruption is derived from a Latin word which means corruptus. Corruptus means something that has broken down. And what has broken down? Here, values have broken down. So basically, we are trying to use our position for the private gain. We are trying to use our power for the private gain. Okay, so here, and it says that corruption is actually reflection of the loss of values in society. Yani there have been some values of the society which have been lost. So what are the values of societies? Okay, what are the values of society which would have been lost when I talk about corruption? The loss of honesty. Okay, because of dishonest behavior, people indulge in corruption. The loss of values like trust. We lose trust and therefore people indulge in corruption. There is loss of trust and people then try to use their power, their position for their own gains. There's lack of empathy, right? Because of the failure of empathy, we are actually indulging on our personal gains at the cost of the public. But at the cost of public, we are indulging in personal gains. So there's loss of empathy. There's loss of the values like responsibility. Because if a responsible person would not abuse power, a responsible person would not gain, will not be self-serving. So responsibility की बात चली गई. Humanity का loss है. आपकी humanity, human values, love, care, compassion. ये जो 3 basic values है, ठीक है? ये जो 3 basic values है, वही lose हो गई. So yes, corruption is manifestation of failure of the core values. Now you'll have to think. ये बहुत interesting. ये जो question पूछा है blue में, that is very interesting. What measures can be adopted to uplift the core values in society? Suppose you are given a task of making India corruption free. Now, what measures will you want to recommend as an administrator? As an administrator, what, or for that matter, as a person, as a vice person, what measures do you think we will need to take so as to uplift the core values in society? हमारी society बहुत अच्छी society होनी चाहिए, अच्छी core values वाली society होनी चाहिए. तो हमने क्या measures लेने चाहिए? What measures will help in making India corruption free? We are the youth. We are the ideal population. We are the population with lot of energy. तो बताओ क्या measures होनी चाहिए? What measures? Think of something. The first important thing to make the nation corruption free is socialization. Right socialization. To say yes to right thing and to say no to the wrong thing. It starts with ourselves and it starts with family. Okay. Then you move on to moral education. Then comes the role of a guide. Then comes the role of a teacher. Moral education. New education policy जो है 2020 की इसके importance के बारे में highlight कर. So you'll have to start off with socialization, right socialization. Second is moving on to moral education. The third is you move on to sensitivity training. Okay. It is seen, no? It is seen that as an IS officer, your first posting is generally under a very ethical trainer. ताकि आप sensitize हो जाओ towards values, towards code of conduct, towards code of ethics. So socialization, education, leadership, role modeling, right? We look up to our leaders, that how is a leader behaving. So if there is an ethical leadership, there is persuasion and there is mass appeal, right? So we'll have to go for measures, like we'll go for role modeling, ethical role modeling. Okay. Then there should be the institutions that should promote core values. The use of institutions like cultural institution, religious institution, they should promote such values, right? What measures can be adopted to uplift the core values in the society? Yes. अब ये तो हमने देख लिया कि हमने corruption जो है, the corruption is because of the failure of values. Second, what measures do you need for promotion of good values in the society? Then third, you move on to understanding that you move on to understand that what steps do you think, I have a question here. Do you think if we go for right socialization, if there is right leadership, if there is proper code of conduct, do you think can we actually 100% ensure that there would be no corruption? हम सब लोग बहुत अच्छे इंसान बन गए, हमारा socialization भी बहुत अच्छा हो गया, we have good leadership also, but then can we guarantee that there would be no corruption? No, we can't guarantee, right? So apart from, yes, Ashwini says no, Farooq says we need strict actions and vigilance. आपको strict actions चाहिए, strict vigilance चाहिए, correct. आपने measures तो लेने हैं society level पे, but you will also have to take some institutionalized measures. Institutionalized measures in the form of EPDS of Chhattisgarh, like you will have to use e-technology. तो आपको टेक्नोलॉजी का यूज करना है, लोगों के अंदर अवेयरनेस क्रिएट करनी है, सोशल ऑडिट, सोशल अवेयरनेस, so that there is a vigilance factor. There is an excellent vigilance factor that stops corruption. So we do need measures on the part of society, but we also need some external vigilance in the form of audit, in the form of technology, in the form of citizen charters, so as to prevent corruption, right? Generally, yes, strong vigilance mechanism, strong whistleblowers mechanism. Generally, you can end such answers, corruption wale answers, with a quote, a very powerful quote that has been given by our former president, APJ Abdul Kalam. He says that if you want to make your country corruption free, there are three powerful agencies that play an important role. That is your mother, father, and a teacher. So we can generally talk about these things. That yes, अगर आपको corruption free करना है तो ये तीन agencies बहुत important role play कर सकते हैं. Now moving on to question number 2B. So we've discussed 1A, 1B, 2A. Moving on to 2B. When I say 2B, This is about this question. In this question, you might not be able to study anywhere, right? But then you are able to feel this. You are able to tackle such questions when you are able to think and reflect on things. And when you, especially in your work environment, right? It says that question kya hai? In the context of work environment, differentiate between coercion and undue influence with suitable examples. तो एक तरफ है coercion, दूसरी तरफ है undue influence, and we'll have to differentiate between the two, right? So what is coercion? What is undue influence? Basically, coercion is a practice where there is some physical harm that can be done. Okay. And undue influence is more moral. There's more moral pressure in the undue influence. So coercion is basically committing or threatening to commit. If you commit something or you threaten to commit a damage to a person, a physical harm to a person, that is coercion. That you give me this or there would be physical harm to you. That is coercion. But undue influence, you actually manipulate a person. You actually manipulate a person. You manipulate a person to do something by moral influence. So you are under influence of someone is at a high position, you respect that person, but then आपको वो manipulate कर रहे हैं, influence कर रहे हैं, ताकि आप उनका काम करें, उनका फायदे वाला decision ले rather than your decision. So there's a difference between coercion and undue influence. Coercion में there is a possibility of physical harm. There's a possibility, but in undue influence, and there is a possibility that person is deliberately upholding other things. But undue influence is manipulation, wherein you are being manipulated because of somebody who is superior to you, right? So coercion mein there is threats, there is physical force. Undue influence mein there is moral force. There's some moral force involved. Out of the two, coercion and undue influence, right? Coercion is unlawful. It is criminal act. There's a criminal act in coercion, right? And it is also penalized. It is penalized under law. However, your undue influence is not penalized. There's no penal provision attached to it. Okay, so this is the difference between the two, coercion and the undue influence. As this question is highlighting the role of society, number of bribe takers are less than number of bribe givers. Okay, Pratima. So vigilance prevents corruption from bribe takers side. How to prevent it from the bribe giver side? Pratima, bribe giver के side पे तो आपको role of mother, role of father, role of teacher, moral education, role of religion, इनकी तो बात करनी है. That aims at changing the heart. That aims at changing the heart. Not only taking is wrong, even giving of bribe is wrong. So you will have to talk about change of attitude, you also talk about empowerment, character development, empowerment and character development. Okay, yes, correct, Ashwini. Using powerful position to make your work done is called as undue influence. Coercion mein you are threatening a person to enter into an agreement. Okay, so here you'll have to talk about these things. You'll have to talk about the difference between the two. Now, I'm moving on to discussing the questions, code-based questions, like what does this quote mean to you? What do you understand by this quote? So every time there are 3 code-based questions. The code-based questions, this time the question has been on Mahatma Gandhi. The question has been on Jawaharlal Nehru. The question has been on Swami Vivekananda. Most of them have been Indian thinkers. Indian thinkers, Indian philosophers, Indian leaders. So Indian thinkers की बात की हुई है, तीनों ही Indian thinkers ही हैं, right? So here the questions have been from Indian thinkers, philosophers, and leaders. Now it's like the simplest act of kindness. The simplest act of kindness are by far more powerful than 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. So it's like the question is actually trying to ask from you that an action, a kind action is more impactful. It will yield more results than just bowing your head in the prayer. So it's not just about whether you are praying for a person, but it is about what action are you doing. Simple act of kindness. So it's about action versus a passive support, right? Yes, this similar question has been asked in the examination in the past also, right? Swami Vivekanand ji ने भी कुछ ऐसी ही बात कही थी, जो so similar theme पे ये question पहले पूछा गया है. So what it's very common, right? Where you'll feel that rather than external support, passive support, one simple act of kindness will help you. Why does kindness brings more impact? It's because, or why does and kind action brings more impact? Because it is action oriented. You might have heard about the story of compassionate Kozhikode. There's a district Kozhikode in Kerala, wherein the administrator, wherein the IAS officer there, Prashant Nair, उन्होंने एक पूरा ही ऑपरेशन लॉन्च कर लिया कंपैशनेट कोझिकोड का, राइट? तो एक एक्ट and the vision is what? The vision is that nobody in the district would go hunger free. You will not be hungry. The vision is to make the district free of issues of hunger. So what steps they have been taking? They have taken steps like food for work. They have taken steps like money ki jagah pe we'll provide you food. So it's a simple act of kindness, which is by far the most powerful one. The one example that you can talk about, there was this Padma Shri awardee, bike ambulance dada. How many of you have heard about this bike ambulance dada? Padma Shri awardee, where the person is taking bike ambulance dada ne bike ko hi ambulance bana diya. They've made bike as ambulance. He actually takes people. He's a worker in a tea garden. Takes people to hospital, right? So daily there have been movements. So it's important, no, when somebody is suffering. So rather than simply praying, rather than simply giving passive support, there should be some action that has to be done. And that way you can make a world a better place. So it's about making a world a better place. You might have also heard this time also, there is this Padma Shri awardee, Dr. Shankurarthi Chandrasekhar. Dr. Shankurarthi Chandrasekhar. तो उन्होंने फ्री मेडिकल एड दिया है, फ्री मेडिकल फैसिलिटीज दी हैं, फ्री एजुकेशनल फैसिलिटीज दी हुई हैं, राइट? सो they've given free medical facilities, free educational facilities after the death of their near and dear ones. The person has indulged himself into service to humanity. Humanity को serve करेंगे, and that it has helped many of the people in the society. तो आप सिर्फ prayer ना करें, passive ना रहें, but you should get into the act of kindness. You should do some action, right? This is the importance of action-oriented efforts rather than simply about being one who is outside. You will have to talk about that. What does the quote mean to you in the present context? Where in the world, at the national level, individual level, society level, are you able to see this? Are you actually able to see this in your real life? So you'll have to analyze the quotes accordingly, right? The next question that has been that you have a question with respect to this one, the quote-based question. Do not hate anybody, because that hatred that comes out from you must, in the long run, come back to you. In the long run, they will come back to you. If you love, that love will come back to you, completing the circle. So it's like it talks about that. If you hate, hatred will come back to you. If you love, love will come back to you. हम बचपन से सुनते आ रहे हैं, एक बहुत ही छोटा सा कोट है, बहुत ही प्यारा सा कोट है, that as you sow, so shall you reap. जो आप बोओगे, आप वही पाओगे, right? So the karma theory, what you will sow, you will reap that thing, right? So it's about this part, you will reap that thing. So it's like hatred is like a boomerang, it comes back to you. Okay, So if you invest yourself in hating people, you will create a negative energy, you will create anxiety, you will create insecurity. The others would not be as comfortable, and it will come back to you in the form of jealousy, in the form of hatred. क्या सच में ऐसा होता है? Have you actually witnessed this? आपको लगता है क्या ये ऐसा होता है कि hatred comes back? And if, in case you feel yes, can you give me some examples when hatred has come back in the form of hatred at the national level, at the international level, at the society level, at the community level? Have you been able to see this? There have been many examples as such. No, not in the family. Don't write your family examples, Nabia. You'll have to write some deep analytical examples or something that you actually study. Many of us study in history, yes, the communal hatred. We study about World War I and the hate clause and the hatred that Germany had led to World War II. So here, yes, the world wars, the hatred against Jews came back to the German society. For that matter, not just history, the hatred that we spread, the destruction that we spread to environment, right? The hatred, the destruction हम environment में spread करते हैं, in the form of pollution, in the form of destruction, comes back to us. There's a quote, no, which says that nature protects when it is protected. So the hatred is also coming back. There have been a lot of evils. We talk about militarization of the world. The world has full of nuclear weapons. That comes back. Talk about the terror groups. Talk about black money. Talks about bombing. Yes, Japan bombing. It comes back. So hatreds come back. Similarly, जैसे hatred come back होती है, वैसे ही love comes back. Love begets love. Okay? If you sow love, you get love. An example here could be a very powerful example of a country, South African country, right? And a very powerful leader, Nelson Mandela and the other things that the person stood for apartheid system. It stood against the apartheid system. Sorry, he fought against the discrimination, the racial discrimination. And when he was released from the jail, the same, he actually forgive many people. तो उन्होंने kindness spread किया, उन्होंने love spread किया. जब उन्होंने kindness spread किया, जब उन्होंने love spread किया, तो उनको love मिला. कैसे? From the South African society. So when you spread love, ठीक है, when you spread love, love comes back to you. India का perfect example है. India has been spreading idealism at the world level. Foreign nations में, foreign countries में idealism को spread किया हुआ. जब idealism हमने foreign relationship में, NAM, yes, very good, Pratima. The acceptance, yes. We have been talking about values like love, care, compassion at the international level. And it comes back to India in the form of love, care from the other nations, from the support in the form of other nations. You know, so it's like, I would like to end this answer with a quote of the Gandhiji: an eye for eye makes the whole world blind. So पूरा world blind हो सकता है because of, if you actually go for jealousy, revenge and other things. Okay, so this was question number 3C. 3B seems to be fairly easy. If you want to awaken the people, the women must be awakened. If the women move, she moves, family moves, villages move, nation moves. ये बहुत simple है कि empowerment of women जो है, women का जो empowerment है, that actually not just is about the women empowerment, but it is about the empowerment of society. It is about the empowerment of nation. It is about the empowerment of the village. So it's about whole. If you educate a man, you educate a person. If you educate a woman, you educate the entire family. You educate the entire नेशन। तो ये विमेन के रोल की बात कर रहे हैं। बहुत पावरफुल एग्जांपल्स हैं हमारे पास, जहां पे if you actually move a woman, you move the whole family, you move the whole village, you move the whole nation. बहुत perfect example is the, you know, the socialization, the homeschooling of our one scientist, Thomas Alva Edison. Thomas Alva Edison was sent to home from the school कि ये इनको अब नहीं पढ़ाया जा सकता. He's a special child, we can't teach them. And he was homeschooled by a mother. जब घर पे पढ़ाया मम्मी ने, जब घर पे शिक्षा हुई, तो अलग ही एटीट्यूड, अलग ही रेजिलियंस सामने आया. So it's about what can a woman do for the benefit of family, village and nation. So Thomas Alva Edison was actually homeschooled. He was sent back home. It's about that. We talk about the role of mother in bringing leaders like APJ Abdul Kalam, in bringing leaders like Gandhi ji, in bringing leaders like others, right? So here you'll have to talk about them. Okay, so this was fairly easy one. This question, mother is the first teacher. Yes, it is the mother that is the, yes, Sudhamurthy ji, correct. Beautiful examples that we have, and we need to use those examples in our answers. Okay, so you have questions like, moving on to the question number 4. Question number 4 is comparatively a easier one. मतलब पढ़ने में difficult लग रहा है, but वो EQ और IQ की ही बात कर रहे हैं कि what really matters for success, happiness and lifelong achievement is a definite set of emotional skills, your EQ, and not just pure cognitive abilities that are mentioned, that are measured by conventional IQ test. तो अगर आपको सक्सेस चाहिए, अच्छा कैरेक्टर चाहिए, हैप्पीनेस चाहिए, लाइफ लॉन्ग अचीवमेंट चाहिए, तो इट इज EQ दैट हेल्प्स एंड नॉट जस्ट द IQ. तो ये EQ और IQ का ही है. बहुत सिंपल क्वेश्चन है, ट्रेडिशनल क्वेश्चन है. EQ क्यों चाहिए आपको? इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंट क्यों होना है? ठीक है, यू हैव टू बी इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंट टू लर्न, टू अनलर्न, टू प्रोग्रेस, टू मूव फॉरवर्ड. ठीक है, टू नो अबाउट द अदर्स इमोशंस. कैरेक्टर डेवलपमेंट के लिए EQ बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. हैप्पीनेस के लिए EQ बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. कैरेक्टर डेवलपमेंट के लिए क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट है? बिकॉज इफ यू गो फॉर कैरेक्टर डेवलपमेंट, फॉर यू टू हैव कैरेक्टर डेवलपमेंट, यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड प्रॉब्लम्स. तो अगर आपको प्रॉब्लम समझनी है और प्रॉब्लम्स पे एम्पथाइज करना है और प्रॉब्लम्स को सॉल्व करना है, तो आपको EQ लगेगा. EQ इज आप कैसे दूसरों के इमोशंस समझ पाते हो और कैसे राइट पाथ पे जाते हो. सो यू विल नीड EQ, राइट, फॉर कैरेक्टर डेवलपमेंट. फॉर हैप्पीनेस, यू कैन नॉट बी हैप्पी if you're not emotionally satisfied, if you're not having contentment. Dalai Lama, perfect example. Yes, a perfect example is Dalai Lama. ठीक है, so here आपको अगर सक्सेस चाहिए, आपको अगर हैप्पीनेस चाहिए, आपको अगर कैरेक्टर चाहिए, तो you will have to have, and if you have to have resilience, lifelong achievement चाहिए, resilience चाहिए, that is your EQ. We have examples like Thomas Alva Edison, Dalai Lama, Mahatma Gandhi, APJ अब्दुल कलाम, जिन सबका EQ बड़ा तगड़ा था. Very powerful EQ. EQ means knowing your emotions, knowing the emotions of others, utilizing your emotions, utilizing the emotions of others to come at a right solution, to come up with right approach. That is your EQ. So it's not just IQ, it is not just intelligence. It is about your ability to manage people. It is your ability to help others. It is your ability to empathize. वो काम आती है. So this is about your question 4. तो theory portion बच्चे थोड़ा easy था, बहुत ज्यादा tough नहीं था. सबसे important बात ये है, I'll not stretch too much. I'll just move directly to the case studies. How far are you able to solve case studies? Case studies would be game changer. Case studies में ही आपको ज्यादा effort मारना पड़ेगा. I'll just take one case study, which say starts off with, you are working as an executive in nationalized bank for several years. आप एक executive में हो for several years. आपका पहले ही रोल बता दिया है, and उसके बाद आपको situation बता दिया. तो आप एक executive हो national banks पे for several years. One day, one of your colleagues tells you that his father is suffering from heart disease and needs surgery immediately to survive. She also tell you that she has no insurance. तो ना insurance है, पैसे की जरूरत है, father की बात है. She has no insurance and the operational cost will be around 10 lakhs. तो 10 lakh रखने वाले हैं, right? You are aware of the fact that her husband is no more. She does not even have husband. She's alone. And she's from a lower middle class family. Okay. So a lady from a middle class family with no husband, father is having issues, needs surgery. The operation cost is also 10 lakhs. You are very empathetic. You actually try to understand the situation. However, apart from expressing your sympathy, you do not have resources to fund her. So you also don't have money to give her. So you just empathize. Then what happens after few years, after few weeks, you know that the well-being, you asked about how is your father, you asked about the well-being of the father, and she informs that the surgery is done, he's recovering. She also tell you that the money was given by a bank manager, and the bank manager took some money from a dormant account. एक dormant account था, उसमें से पैसे ले लिए बैंक मैनेजर ने. Okay, and because the account was no more there, so the account was, okay, 1 second. Yeah. So the account was lying dormant. So it's like, okay, the money was given by manager, and she said that she will repay the money as soon as possible, and she has already started paying back and would continue to do so. Okay, until it is all returned. Okay, so you are trying to, she's trying to return the money. She's trying to return the money. But now here, the question is, what are the ethical issues involved in the case? So आपको एक case study पूरी दे दी है. Suppose a lady is there, she's struggling on financial matters, she's struggling on her father's health. You are not able to give her money. Somebody gives money, but the money the other person is giving is also not theirs. So they are trying to utilize, they are trying to give somebody else's money, जो कि बैंक में पड़ा हुआ है, जो कि कोई utilize नहीं कर रहा. ठीक है, उसने बोला कि किसी को पता भी नहीं पड़ेगा. Nobody will even come to know, and it has to be paid. It has to be paid at the earliest. ठीक है, she has already started paying back. So what are the ethical issues involved here? What are the ethical issues? Like, what are the concerns here? On one hand, there is life. On one hand, there is family. On the other hand, there is duty. Your duty as a manager, your duty as a bank executive. On one hand, there is responsibility towards the father. On the other hand, there is misconduct. आपने किसी और का पैसा उठा के दे दिया, तो ये तो misconduct है. On one hand, there is human life, compassion. On other hand, there is objectivity. कि आप objective decision लो कि compassionate decision लो. एक पार्ट पे प्रोफेशनल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, कि आपकी प्रोफेशनल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि आप सही से काम करें बैंक में, और दूसरी तरफ आपकी मॉरल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि आप अपने दोस्त की मदद करें. एंड यू आर नॉट स्टीलिंग, यू आर नॉट स्टीलिंग. आप किसी का पैसा चुरा नहीं रहे, एक डोरमेंट अकाउंट से पैसा आप दे रहे हो. तो बहुत ज्यादा एथिकल डायलेमा है इसमें. अब जो बैंक मैनेजर है उसके बिहेवियर को आपको एनालाइज करना है. क्या बैंक मैनेजर ने जो किया, was that correct or not? Or what are the merits? What are the merits of the decision taken by the bank manager, and what are the demerits? Can somebody tell me some points? What are the merits of the decision taken by the branch manager? Yes, Karan. लाइफ और डेथ का सवाल है. लाइफ और डेथ का सवाल है. बैंक मैनेजर ने किसी के पैसे उठा के दे दिए हैं जिसके पैसे पड़े हुए थे. The bank manager is helping a friend. bank manager is being compassionate, bank manager is being empathetic. Very good, Karan. Very good, Nadia. There is justification कि वो तो empathy की बात करें, compassionate की बात करें. Bank manager is fulfilling moral duty. There is some moral duty towards helping a friend. A friend in need is friend in deed, right? But what are the issues? What are the issues? Yes, what are the issues? The issues is breaking the rule, abuse of authority. There is abuse of authority, right? The problem is violation of the rules. The problem is it is against integrity. तो आप rules break कर रहे हो, आप integrity break कर रहे हो, आप अपनी authority का गलत इस्तेमाल कर रहे हो, abuse है. Transparency के खिलाफ है ये. It is against the values of accountability. So आप accountability भी नहीं लिख रहे हो, transparency भी नहीं रख रहे हो. So दोनों पार्ट पे आपको ये समझना होगा that ethics, no, in ethics the problem is not right versus wrong. The problem is your right comes in conflict with my right. जो आप सही समझते हो वो conflict में आता है जिसको मैं सही समझती हूँ. That is the problem in ethics. It's all about gray. So you can analyze the behavior of the bank manager from positive viewpoint. You can also analyze the behavior of the bank manager from the other viewpoint. So here you'll have to analyze that. Now a very interesting dimension. Now you get to know everything. That there was a lady, she has real problem, genuine problem. The father has issue. She doesn't have money. There is a genuine problem. She came to you. You could not help her. You got to know that somebody else is helping her, but not via very good means, not very via correct means. What would you react to the situation? ये सबसे important बात कि आप कैसे react करोगे situation पे. Ethical dilemma का मतलब ये होता है अश्विनी. Ethical dilemma means basically it's a very tough situation where you are not able to understand the right or wrong. So it's a tough situation and there is compromise of two values. एक होता है state of confusion. ठीक है, वो state of confusion है ethical dilemma, जिसमें दोनों तीनों बातें सही हैं और कौन सा आप decision लोगे वो आप उसमें confused हो. So saving life is important, following professional ethics is important, following transparency is important, but helping a friend is also important. तो अब करें तो करें क्या? ठीक है, that is ethical dilemma. What do you do? How do you come up with the decision? That is a state of confusion. So any choice that you make in ethical dilemma, चाहे आप कोई भी choice लो, the choice will not be 100% correct. That is the ethical dilemma. ठीक है, so what are the ethical issues involved? You will have to analyze the behavior of the bank manager from ethical viewpoint. And how will you react to the situation? कैसे आप react करोगे situation पे? अब आपके पास तो help करने मांगने आए थे, आपसे help नहीं हो पाई, आपकी मजबूरी थी, पर आपको ये बात भी गलत लग रही है कि कोई गलत तरीके से मदद की जा रही है. So how will you react? In such situation, it is important to use your persuasion skills. You will have to confront your friend. You will have to tell her that what she has done is not right. You will have to tell her to return the money as soon as possible and tell her that not to repeat such actions. So convince your friend कि ये सही नहीं है. You will have to return the money, yes. And you will actually try to also convince the bank manager that one should not misuse the position, even if there is right intention. तो right intention है तब भी आप misuse नहीं करेंगे position को. And you'll have to explore the ways on how you can help her via NGO, via self-help group. ठीक है? Yes, through constitutional provision. Yes, through other government schemes. प्रधानमंत्री जन आरोग्य योजना. तो आपका administrative acumen यहाँ पे काम आएगा. ठीक है, कि आप वैल्यूज को तो नहीं कॉम्प्रोमाइज कर सकते हो, ठीक है, वैल्यूज को नहीं कॉम्प्रोमाइज कर सकते हो इन एनी, ठीक है. शी इज रिटर्निंग ऑलरेडी स्टिल, ठीक है. A right is right, a wrong is wrong. There is no right way of doing a wrong thing. अगर कोई चीज गलत है तो उसको सही, आप सही तरीके से नहीं कर सकते. There is no right way to do a wrong thing. If you are doing something wrong, it is wrong. ठीक है प्रतिमा, even if she is returning, there have to be some rules, there have to be some procedures that has to be upheld, right? So you'll have to tell her that not to do anything like this in the future. ठीक है, तो इंटीग्रिटी इंपॉर्टेंट, बहुत इंटीग्रिटी सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है, ऑनेस्टी इंपॉर्टेंट है, ऑब्जेक्टिविटी इंपॉर्टेंट है, ठीक है. सो स्टैंडिंग फॉर राइट क्रॉस इज ऑल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट, बिकॉज दूसरे सिटीजन्स का भी ट्रस्ट है बैंक पे, राइट. सो दिस इज द केस स्टडी. आई वाज जस्ट गिविंग यू अ स्नैपशॉट ऑन हाउ टू attempt your ethics paper, right? How should you go about it? What is the dimension that you should think? How should you think? बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है that it's very important that you get used to these ethics terms. Ethics अपना language होता है. Some of you are asking me ethical dilemma, so you will have to start using those virtues, start values, think about the situations. There are no easy answers in ethics. कोई easy answer नहीं है. There is no easy. Can we ask her now the emergency has gone so that she can arrange? Yes, Pratima. Yes, that's what you will have to do. Now the emergency is gone. She should arrange some money, some legal sources, personal loans, and return the money. And in case you can help her through NGO, through self-help group, through other government schemes, you should also help her via that mechanisms. That's what the whole thing is. Aapko, you should not compromise means, even if the end is right. Okay? That's the perspective you need to get, and you apne administrative acumen ko le aana hai. I hope all of you at least got some idea about how to go for discussions for ethics, what approach you should adopt, how will you have to analyze things, okay? How to prepare for ethics. Karan, I would say join my class, okay? I will teach you your entire ethics. I will make you practice, ठीक है. So I would tell you that कि आ जाओ क्लास पे डिस्कस करेंगे, ठीक है. So here you will have to learn ethics that way. In, ठीक है. Yes, Nadia. Yes, Pratima. I will like to end on a short note here, but I would like to remind you of the scholarship test. So there is the scholarship test. The timing is tomorrow, 9 a.m. 21st. Yes, 21st tomorrow, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. ठीक है, तो 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So you try to appear in the scholarship test. There are definite people who will support you there. So this is from my side. I hope all of you could enjoy the discussions. Ethics discussion से ही होता है. Ethics जो है, it's about discussions. It's about discussion. It's about interpretation. It's about analysis. ठीक है, तो analysis तब चालू होता है जब दो information होती है, जब दो counter viewpoint होते हैं. So I believe when you join the class, you'll enjoy it more. So this is from my side. All of you, thank you for your patience and cooperation. We'll see you soon.